Hey folks, this is Kalani. In a surprise twist, the dev team has posted yet another update for the Shadowlands alpha, this time focusing entirely on class design and class changes. This includes abilities that are returning for all specs of a given class, like every hunter getting kill shot again, as well as describing new talents and abilities and changes to how classes play, like Frost Death Knights being able to choose between dual-wielding one-handers or swinging around a massive two-handed weapon for maximum obliteration. Every single class is touched on in one way or another, so I want to go through everything we know so far about class changes for the Shadowlands expansion. There's a lot to talk about, so I'll split this up by class. Check the comments section below for a handy-dandy list of timestamps so you can skip around at your own leisure. Alphabetical order has never failed me thus far, so let's check out the Death Knights first. You'll be pleased to know that every Death Knight in Shadowlands will have access to Death and Decay, Anti-Magic Zone, Lichborn, Raise Dead, and Chains of Ice. All of those abilities are coming back and will be class-wide, so yes, every Death Knight can summon a pet once again. There's a new general Death Knight ability called SACRIFICIAL PACT. You sacrifice one of your undead minions, siphoning their health and causing them to explode and deal damage to nearby enemies. The pet sacrifice has returned as well, and it's been combined with Corpse Explosion for some reason, but hey, it's going to provide you with a little spark of DPS when you need that emergency heal. For blood specs specifically, Rune Tap will now be baseline, so you won't have to talent for that anymore. Some new abilities or talents include Blood Tap. You can consume the essence of slain enemies to generate one rune, and it's repeatable whenever a bone shield charge is used. For every mob or monster you kill, you'll be able to regen a rune. That's pretty nifty. And then we have Relish in Blood, which will significantly heal you for each active bone shield charge and grant 5 runic power when Death and Decay is cast while Crimson Scourge is active. That one sounds more like a talent than a baseline ability, but we'll have to wait and see. Frost Death Knights will once again be able to choose between two-handed weapons and dual wielding, so if you've been wishing for two-handed Frost to make a return, Shadowlands has got your back. The FROSTWYRMS Fury talent will also become baseline for Frost Decays, so you can always summon your trusty Ice Dragon without worrying about talent sets. A new talent called HYPOTHERMIC Presence will halve the runic power cost of abilities for a moderate amount of time, letting you spam Obliterate until the cows come home. Or, you know, until the spell duration ends. Unholy Death Knights are being reinforced as a Necromancer spec, and Summon Gargoyle will be baseline for Unholy instead of being a talent. Army of the Damned will change a bit from the sounds of things and have the Mages of the Dead attached to it somehow, making it a very powerful talent in Shadowlands. Death Coil and Epidemic casts will reduce Army of the Dead's cooldown to give you more access to the mass summon of ghouls, and reduce the cooldown of Apocalypse to keep your Undead Massacre rolling. The Mages of the Dead will also be attached to Apocalypse, so you're going to have a few options for summoning them, and then Unholy Death Knight's Mastery will benefit both the Death Knight and all of your minions to help power them up even further. It sounds like they're really taking the summon an army of undead minions to the extreme with Shadowlands Unholy DK. Up next we have the Demon Hunters, who were in a bit of a weird spot. Because they were introduced in Legion, they didn't go through the same great pruning that everyone else did, so there's not really much to be given back. But that doesn't mean that there aren't any meaningful changes. The first big change is both specs will use the same resource, Fury. That means Vengeance will leave the pain behind and just channel all that pent-up fury instead. In addition, both specs will also gain access to Immolation Aura as a baseline ability. Havoc won't have to talent for it anymore, which is great news. Havoc Demon Hunter will get a new passive called Unending Hatred, which makes their Fury pool a bit larger when compared to Vengeance, so they can get an extra hit or two in, and the Dark Slash talent will get a bit of a revamp. It's now called Essence Break, and it will deal chaos damage and significantly increase the damage of both Chaos Strike and Blade Dance for a short duration. On the Vengeance side, the dev team wants to shake up talent choices and build options. Apparently Soul Cleave will see some changes, but they didn't specify what that means, and a lot of talents are getting moved around, combined, and generally just reworked. One new talent that they gave us a bit of info about is Bulk Extraction, which immediately rips a soul fragment for up to 5 enemies around the Demon Hunter and consumes them. So if you ever need a heal right this very second, and you have plenty of available bodies, that's a substantial heal right there. there. There's also Ruinous Bulwark. This will increase the healing of Fell Devastation and convert any overhealing into an absorption shield. That sounds pretty cool. Oh, and Fell Devastation will become a baseline ability, so all Vengeance Demon Hunters have access to it without needing to talent for it. And the Demonic talent will be an option for Demon Hunters, so when they use Fell Devastation, they also enter Metamorphosis for a short duration. It looks like Vengeance might end up being quite a lot of fun in Shadowlands. I'm excited to get some hands-on play with this one. Druids are next, and as you might expect, they have quite a few changes. Having 4 specs is always going to be hard. For general spells, all druids will have access to Ferocious Bite, Bark Skin, Cyclone, Stampeding Roar, and Iron Fur regardless of your spec, and Heart of the Wild will return as a talent, giving you the option of using off-roll abilities during combat. The affinity talents will be staying, but you'll get an additional utility for each of them. Balance Affinity will give you Typhoon, Feral will get Maim, Guardian will get Incapacitating Roar, and Restoration will get Ursol's Vortex. So no matter what spec you choose, you will have access to a lot of different options from the other specs if you choose. For balanced druids, they're going back to eclipses, so you ping pong back and forth from lunar and solar eclipses to increase your damage, and Star Surge will extend the current eclipse to let you focus power into whichever spell you want at that time. Starfall will also return to a design where you don't have to target it, it just sort of happens around you. Get ready to pull everything from the sky. Starfall will also extend your Moonfire and Sunfire dots, giving you some awesome AoE potential. Feral Druids don't get a lot of love just yet, but Blood Talons will be redesigned. When you use Shred, Rake and Ferocious Bite in quick succession, the damage of your next rip will increase dramatically. Guardian Druids will get Berserk back, allowing them to spam Mangle, Thrash, Growl, Frenzied Regen and Iron Fur to their heart's content, and the Renewal talent will be returning, giving Guardian Druids access to a quick heal if they ever need it. For the resto druids, Swiftmen will rewind a few expansions and go back to consuming a heal over time effect on the target, but have a significantly reduced cooldown and cost. Nature's Swiftness will also return, allowing you to instantly cast Regrowth, Rebirth or Entangling Roots, and Nourish will be coming back as a talent to give you another single target heal that increases with every heal over time spell you have on the target. Moving on to the Hunters, Arcane Shot, Eyes of the Beast, you knew it was coming, Hunter's Mark, Kill Shot, Scare Beast and Tranquilizing Shot will all become available to all Hunter specs as baseline abilities. I am so happy about that Kill Shot. We might just have to pull Hunter Kalani out of retirement. As an extra little bonus, Hunters will also see a huge increase to the size of their stables to allow you to collect every pet you can get your hands on. Now for Beast Mastery Hunters specifically, Bloodshed is a new talent that commands your pet to tear into their target, causing a large bleed effect and increasing the damage your pets deal to that target. The Scent of Blood talent is being redesigned, granting you 2 charges of Barbed Shot whenever you activate Bestial Wrath, and Venomous Bite takes the place of Spitting Cobra, because, let's be honest, no one used it anyway. When Bestial Wrath ends, a Cobra will come to the aid of the Hunter in combat. The power of the Cobra will depend on how many times you use Cobra Shot during Bestial Wrath. That's an interesting option for sure. For marksmanship, there's a new talent called Deadeye that allows you to store 2 charges of Kill Shot, and it makes aimed shot recharge faster for a short time whenever Kill Shot is used. Some nice synergy there. Binding Shackles is a new passive talent that causes enemies rooted by Binding Shot to deal less damage to the hunter for a short time, and Volley will return as a talent option, and it will also trigger Trick Shots, which causes your aim shot and rapid fire abilities to ricochet and hit up to 5 additional targets. So very powerful for AoE and cleave, and it's always nice to see a familiar ability. And then for survival, it's not being thrown in the trash can and going back to a range spec, so the melee survival is here to stay for another expansion, but they will see damage increases to Hydra's Bite, Butchery, Steel Trap, Tip of the Spear and Flanking Strike, and a focus cost reduction for Chakrams. So maybe not too many changes, just a change to how powerful and impactful some abilities will be. Let's talk about the mages next. Arcane Explosion, Fire Blast, Frostbolt, Mirror Image, Fire Ward, Frost Ward, and Alter Time will all return as baseline abilities for all specs, so no matter what school of magic you prefer, you can still play around with key abilities from the others. That's how Mage is supposed to play, in my opinion. Alter Time is going to be a very interesting spell to play around with again. It works very similar to the Temporal Shield PvP talent and allows you to hop back in time, moving you back to the same spot where you initially cast it with the health and mana you had before. There's also going to be a new talent for all mage specs, Focus Magic, which some of you might remember if you've been playing long enough. You can give an ally a bonus to their crit chance, and when they crit, the mage will get the same bonus. A bit of group play is always nice. Now for Arcane specifically, their mastery will affect more spells, not just Arcane Blast and Barrage. Clear Casting will have 2 charges now to help get more arcane missiles out there, and the Touch of the Magi talent will become a baseline ability for Arcane 2, giving them a bit more burst and help with cleaving multiple targets. There's a new talent on the list called Enlightened, which rewards mana management. If you have high mana, your damage is increased, and if you have lower mana, your mana regen will be increased. Fire mages will see their mastery redesigned a bit. Instead of Ignite spreading whenever it feels like it, Fire Blast will go back to an ability that forces Ignite to spread. That means Fire Blast itself might change quite significantly, but we'll have to wait for more details on that. Some talents will also see some changes. Blast Wave will deal more damage and slow for more. Kindling will reduce the cooldown on combustion a lot faster to give you access to more combustion windows, and Pyroclasm will be buffed to provide you with more damage on hard casting those pyros. It sounds like Frost Mage won't see too many changes, or we simply don't have too much info right now, but the Winter's Chill debuff from Flurry will be changing a little bit. It will now last for much longer and cause the next 2 spells to treat the target as frozen. That's a nice quality of life change, no more stutter stepping or shimmer ice lancing, that was kind of annoying, and hopefully we see some more changes as the alpha progresses. Up next we have the Monks. For general spells, Expel Harm, Fortifying Brew, Spinning Crane Kick, and Touch of Death will be available for all Monk specs. Touch of Death will also go back to its original design of just killing any target with less health than the Monk, but each spec will gain something special if they manage to actually use Touch of Death. Brewmasters will clear all of their stagger damage if they kill a target with Touch of Death, Mistweavers will spawn healing spheres for their allies when they use Touch of Death, and Windwalkers will spawn chi spheres for themselves when they manage to get a Touch of Death off. So a good bonus no matter what spec you play. All 3 specs also gain access to their Celestial Summon without needing to pick it as a talent, so Brewmasters get Invoke Nazal the Black Ox, Mistweavers get Invoke Yulon the Jade Serpent, and Windwalkers get Invoke Zuen the White Tiger. It's nice to have some baseline abilities back that were taken away and thrown into the talent system. Brewmasters will once again be able to choose between 2-handed weapons and dual wielding like the Frost Death Knights. More options are always great. They will also see the return of the Shuffle passive, which increases the amount of physical damage that's staggered when you use certain abilities like Blackout Kick, Keg Smash, and Spinning Crane Kick. Celestial Brew is a new ability that absorbs damage based on your attack power, and the Clash ability will be coming back, which lets you force a target to charge at you, and you meet them halfway for a quick cuddle before you slaughter them. There's a new talent called Celestial Flames. Drinking Brews has a chance to increase Breath of Fire's damage reduction and spread its damage over time effects to target struck with Spinning Crane Kick. Some awesome AoE potential there. Exploding Keg will return as a talent option too, immolating enemies on impact and blinding them for a brief period of time. Not too much for Mistweavers, but they will get Invoke Chi-Ji, the Red Crane talent again, but it will return as an option to increase your physical damage and heal your allies based on damage dealt, so basically just another fist weaving option. Windwalkers will also be able to choose between dual wielding and using 2-handed weapons in Shadowlands, so you can go back to stabbing people with polearms or poking them with staffs or whatever you prefer. They also get a new passive talent called Dance of Chi-Ji, which has a chance to increase the damage of your next Spinning Crane Kick and make it free to use. Just a big free AoE. Right, onwards to the Paladins. Blessing of Sacrifice, Hammer of Wrath, Sense Undead, Shield of the Righteous, Turn Evil, and Word of Glory will all be available to all Paladins, and Holy Power will actually return as a resource for all specs. That's going to be interesting to play Holy and Prot with Holy Power again. I guess we'll see how it goes. Auras will also be returning for all Paladins, Concentration Aura, a redesigned Retribution Aura that provides a short burst of Avenging Wrath when allies die, Devotion Aura, and Crusader Aura will all be in the game again. That's super exciting to me. Auras were the kind of thing that you feel shouldn't really have been taken away in the first place. It sounds like every Paladin spec will also have access to the Divine Purpose, Holy Avenger, and Seraphim talents, so you can choose how you want to interact with your Holy Power. Holy Paladins will also see Glimmer of Light join their talent options on the level 50 row, which was the level 100 row to compete with Beacon of Faith. Ooh, choices, and they will continue to have Aura Mastery to pump up all of these wonderful returning auras. Protection Paladins get a new passive called Shining Light, because of course they're a shining beacon of light that makes Word of Glory free whenever Judgment critically strikes a target, so you can help with some off heals or just keep yourself topped off, providing you can crit of course. And then Retribution Paladins will get Wake of Ashes as a baseline ability, because it should never have been a talent in the first place. That frees up another talent slot, and the Empyrean Power Azerite trait will become a talent, giving Crusader Strike a chance to make your next Divine Storm free and deal increased damage. There's that free big AoE again. And then we also have changes for priests. Mind Blast, Mind Soothe, Power Infusion, Shadow Word Death, and Shadow Word Pain will all be available for all of the priest specs, and Power Infusion can be cast on allies. Oh boy, time for the casters to beg before every boss pull for that sweet infusion. Disc Priests get a new talent called Light's Caress. When you use Power Word Barrier, you heal anyone in the effect when it starts and when it ends. That's going to be a very powerful raid cooldown for sure. Another talent preview we have is for Shadow Covenant. You can heal a target and 4 allies within a small area and increase your damage dealt for a short duration, but for that duration you can't cast holy spells anymore. Disc will remain a master of dealing damage to heal, it would seem, and healing to deal damage. Holy Priests will get Circle of Healing as a baseline ability, and a new talent called Prayer Circle, which will cause Circle of Healing to reduce the cast time of Prayer of Healing for a short period of time. Gotta spam those AoE heals together, Priests. And Shadow Priest will remain very similar, it would seem. They're still going to use Void Forms, so if you wanted to get away from that, I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you, but Surrender to Madness will return to a talent that kills you when the effect ends. Guess we're not really making much progress with that one, so we might go back to the times of crazy Shadow Priest damage until you die horribly. Or the talent's just never going to be worth using. It's not really any middle ground there, it's either it's really good or it's really bad. We'll see how it goes. There's a new talent called Death and Madness. Each time you kill a target with Shadow Word Death, you gain a lot of insanity over a few seconds, and Shadow Word Death will have its cooldown reset. Leveling and outdoor content might not be too bad with that particular talent. The rogues are next, and you can probably guess what's first. All specs will have access to instant, crippling, and numbing poison. The poisons are back, baby. Every spec will also get Shiv, a quick stab to apply a concentrated dose of your chosen poison, and Pickpocket will open up a new little side game where you can pickpocket ingredients to mix into your Crimson Vial, changing its effects and power the next time you drink it. That sounds really cool, actually. Assassination rogues will still have better poisons than the other specs, obviously, and will always infect their targets when they attack from stealth. They also gain access to ambush again for another stealth attack option. A new talent, Blindside, gives you a chance to allow you to use ambush even out of stealth and with a higher chance on lower health targets. So another type of execute talent there, and a different talent, Toxic Blade, will reduce the cooldown of Shiv to give you more chances to stab your foes with your nasty poisons. Outlaw rogues will no longer be spending combo points on Roll the Bones, it will be made into a cooldown instead. Spending combo points will reduce the cooldown, so the faster you play, the more rerolls you'll be able to get. Kidney Shot returns as the de facto stun, and Between the Eyes will be changed to a critical strike debuff on your targets. Evasion will also be baseline again, and Riposte will instead be an upgraded talent option. The retractable hook talent will also increase the speed of the rogue's grappling hook, just to make sure you get to your redesign a location a bit faster. Subtlety will get the Find Weakness talent as a baseline ability, allowing them to bypass target's armor and deal extra shadow damage. They can also apply Find Weakness to multiple targets to set up for their new AoE finisher, Shadow Vault, which deals extra damage to enemies with Find Weakness on them. Shadow Dance gains the powers of the Dark Shadow talent passively to increase all damage you deal while it's active, and Rupture returns as Subtlety's damage over time finishing move instead of Nightblade, so a bit of a return to past iterations of Subtlety Rogue. Let's talk about the Shamans next. There's some big changes in here. First off, Chain Heal, Chain Lightning, Healing Stream Totem, Flame Tongue Weapon, Flame Shock, Frost Shock, Lightning Shield, and Searing Totem will all become baseline for all Shaman specs. Elemental Shamans will no longer be using the Maelstrom resource in Shadowlands, so they're back to just plain old mana and managing their cooldowns. It's all about the lava bursts. They will see a new talent called Echoing Shock that blasts your target for significant damage and causes your next heal or spell cast to echo shortly afterward without costing resources, so it's like a forced echo of elements. Enhancement will also be losing the Maelstrom resource entirely and will revert back to stacks of Maelstrom weapon. Each stack reduces the cast time of many abilities. You can eventually make them instant casts with enough stacks. Flame Tongue weapon and Wind Fury weapon can once again be applied to your weapons, so you can choose what you want to run around with. The passive bonus provided by the Hailstorm talent has been redesigned so that it resets the cooldown of Flame Shock and Frost Shock when you use Storm Strike. That could lead to some crazy combos. The Searing Assault talent is also getting changed. It will now deal fire damage and cause your Searing Totem to cast incredibly fast and trigger your Flame Shock to rapidly dish out its damage over time effects, so you can really speed up your damage potential with that one. Overcharge is getting changed to generate 5 stacks of Maelstrom weapon and another stack every second for a short duration. That gives you access to an on-demand instant cast spell whenever you need them. And Stormkeeper will be a talent for enhancement as well, to make your next 2 Lightning Bolt or Chain Lightning casts instant and deal bonus damage. Stormkeeper has a cast time, but also benefits from Maelstrom weapon, so you can instant cast Stormkeeper to instant cast 2 Chain Lightnings. That's going to be a lot of fun. Follow that up with an Earthquake and we're talking some major AoE damage. And then Enhancement will also get Elemental Blast, giving you access to even more powerful spell effects to use your Maelstrom weapon stacks on. And Resto Shamans will get Earth Shield as a baseline ability, and a new talent called Surge of Earth allows you to expend a few charges to instantly heal your Earth Shield target and several nearby allies, but that's all for Resto at the moment, sadly. Nearly done, Warlocks will see quite a few changes going into Shadowlands. All of the curses are coming back, or most of them at least. Curse of Tongues, Curse of Recklessness, Curse of Weakness, and Curse of Doom will return for all Warlock specs. Demonic Circle will also return to its rightful place as a baseline ability. Tongue-Tied is a new talent for all Warlocks that empowers spells cast against enemies with Curse of Tongues, sealing them from healing effects. That sounds a little too powerful, but we'll see how it plays out. Affliction Warlocks will see Unstable Affliction redesigned. It no longer stacks, but it's going to last longer, and it doesn't cost any soul shards. They will also get the Malefic Rapture ability, which deals damage to every enemy afflicted by damage over time of spells, increased for each periodic effect on the target. So the seeds will now embed 2 extra seeds into nearby enemies for some extra AoE damage, and combining that with Malefic Rapture could yield some amazing results. Demonology Warlocks don't really change too much. Dark Pact will now scale with spell power to deal more damage, and the Dark Fury talent will make Shadow Fury a larger AoE effect to stun more enemies. That's it for now. Destruction actually has less changes. The only change so far is to Fire and Brimstone. It generates 2 soul fragments for each additional enemy struck by your empowered Incinerate. That's it. Hopefully we'll see more changes as the alpha unfolds. And last but certainly by no means least, the Warriors. This is a long list of general abilities, so bear with me. Execute, Hamstring, Ignore Pain, Shield Block, Shield Slam, Slam, Spell Reflection, Whirlwind, Challenging Shout, Intervene, and Shattering Throw will all be available as baseline abilities for every Warrior spec. Shattering Throw will also deal extra damage to anyone who has an Absorption Shield on them, which is a nice touch. The Double Time and War Machine talents will also be available for every spec in the talent tree in Shadowlands. For Arms Warriors specifically, they'll get Piercing Howl for an AoE slow option. The Cleave talent has been redesigned. After you strike 3 targets with Whirlwind, you can use Cleave to strike all enemies in front of you, inflicting deep wounds. Deadly Calm will now completely remove the rage cost of the next 4 abilities and include a passive effect that increases the warrior's maximum rage by a moderate amount. Dreadnought now takes on the Seismic Wave Azerite trait by default, empowering Overpower to deal damage to enemies in a line. When Overpower hits 2 targets with sweeping strikes, Dreadnought causes 2 devastating seismic waves. That sounds awesome. I wish more abilities would carry over effects like that when they cleave. Fury Warriors will also gain access to the talent Fervor of Battle, where Whirlwind will also cast Slam at your primary target and generate additional rage. They can also learn Onslaught, where you deal a large amount of damage and generate some rage. Frothing Berserker has been redesigned. When you reach 100 rage, you gain haste and movement speed over a few seconds. Wrecking Ball will return as a talent to give you a chance to make your next Whirlwind deal a large amount of extra damage. There's that large AoE again. And Fresh Meat will now cause Bloodthirst to always enrage you the first time you strike a target with Bloodthirst. For Protection Warriors, a few talents have been changed so far. BERSERK Cold increases the damage of Revenge, with the damage bonus increasing significantly after a successful dodge or parry has made Revenge cost no rage, so free Revenge hits harder. Imagine that. Menace has also been redesigned to empower Intimidating Shout to cause all enemies to cower in fear and knocking back anything that isn't the primary target. Indomitable will passively increase the warrior's max health, and spending rage while it's active will heal the warrior, and Never Surrender increases Ignore Pain by either a moderate or significant amount depending on your missing health. Phew, that was a lot of information. Again, check the comments below for a list of timestamps to skip around. Obviously at this point some of the classes are more fleshed out than the others, and some of the ones which really needed help seem to have gotten it. The Shaman changes alone are fantastic news, and I'm super excited to flip through the spellbook and look at all the spells and abilities that we just haven't seen in so long at this point. The Shadowlands expansion is being touted as an expansion of choice, and between certain classes once again having the option to choose what kind of weapon they want to use and increasing the diversity and power of talents while keeping some of the good stuff from BfA systems, it certainly gives me hope that the dev team is going in the right direction so far. I can't wait to get into the alpha to give some of this a test drive. What do you think of the class changes from what we've read so far? Is there anything glaringly obvious that's missing that you were hoping to see, or did they tick almost every good box you can think of? Is there anything in there that you absolutely hate? Leave all your thoughts in the comments section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon. You can see their names floating by on screen. If you want to join these lovely guys and gals, you can find a link in the description below. Remember to leave a like just below the video before you leave. If you want to see more, make sure to subscribe. But apart from that, thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I will see you next time.